The Dharma, incomparably profound and exquisite, is rarely met with even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We now can see it, hear it, accept and hold it. May we realize the true mind of the Tathagata. Today is the 6th day of this 7-day Sesshin here at Mountain Gate in northern New Mexico in July 2022. And it's a time when for some people, it feels like the plug gets pulled. We really come into Sesshin with great determination and make significant progress, even though it may not look like that or feel like that to us. The teacher can always tell. And then, because we don't have any obvious results necessarily, we can get a little bit discouraged and kind of let up some on the practice. But let me share with you the words of Dogen. This is from a book called A Primer of Soto Zen. Jewels become objects of beauty by polishing. Human beings become true human beings by training. What jewel is lustrous from the beginning, and what person is superior from the outset? You must always keep polishing and always keep training. Do not deprecate yourselves and relax in your study of the way. And of course, the jewel has the perfection within it, even though it may be rough on the outside. In the same way with human beings, we are innately perfect, whole and complete, just as we are, only we've got an overlay of stuff. And through the training, through the process of focusing over and over again, increasingly deeply, increasingly let go, through that focusing, we open to that innate perfection, and it takes time. Remember that Joshu trained for 40 years with his teacher, and then his teacher died. And he continued on training, polishing himself through interactions with other teachers as a student for the next 40 years. And only after that did he begin working with students himself. So there's nothing disappointing in this view. In fact, to be able to set foot on the path, even one step, is phenomenal and an amazing gift, whether it's recognized or not. I want to share here a couple of words from Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, the Tibetan master of, he's deceased at this point, I believe. This is coming from the book called Quintessential Dzogchen, Confusion Dawns as Wisdom. And even within that title, there is a teaching. Confusion dawns as wisdom. Here's what he says. When our confusion is purified, the wisdom that is our basic wakefulness becomes apparent. And one particularly effective time of the day, actually, or times of the day, to really sink into that is just as we're falling asleep at night and just as we're waking up in the morning, because we're not fully awake or fully asleep either time. And there's a place in between where we're not invested as deeply as a self. And insight can come at those times, very, very potent times for practice. And here is from someone who experienced that for himself. I've noticed that when I get insights into a mental problem, the answer always appears early in the morning, when I'm half awake and half asleep, when the mind realizes what is there. With letting go, I found that a feeling of trust and well-being comes in and fills the space stress and worry occupied. But it's trust without knowing, which is quite exhilarating. Trust without knowing, which is quite exhilarating. And this is why we focus our mind on extending the out-breath over and over and over and over again, gradually winnowing out the stuck places so that in those particular times and at other moments as well, insight into our behavior can come, and even deeper insights into the nature of reality. If it's deep enough, it's called awakening or kensho, which means seeing into the nature of reality. We have to go on trust because there's no milestones, really. You could call, having a kensho a kind of a milestone, but it's only really seen as a beginning, because that's when you have opened sufficiently to be able to comprehend more deeply the nature of reality. Until then, it's kind of obscure. But in general, we have to trust that the practice is going to work. That's why faith is so vital in Zen practice. And it does work. It does work. Even in this Sesshin alone, I've seen significant progress, if you want to call it that. I hate to call it that because it's not really in that realm. It's more of a letting go so that we can see increasingly what is revealed through the letting go. The letting go is the key aspect of practice, and that's why the extended out breath is so powerful, because you cannot extend that out breath without letting go to a certain degree. You cannot multitask with the extended out breath. If you're trying to do that, or if you're doing that, it's not the correct practice. And I'd like to share also some more things here. This is a poem by Musou Soseki. Musou Soseki was a Japanese master, Rinzai master, who was considered the founder of Tenryuji, one of the headquarter temples of the Rinzai sect in Kyoto. And it is a powerful temple. It's still a teaching temple today, as far as I know. At least it was last time I was there, which of course is getting further and further away right now. I think it's been about 8 years or so since I was in Japan. And I always went to Kyoto for a week on my way to Sogenji so that I could adjust to the quite significant time change. And I would stay at an ancient, tiny little temple that is owned by Tenryuji and considered its founder's temple. This is a small temple called Rinzenji. It's really not known, but I happen to know the monk that has lived there and taken care of the place for a long time, and a long-time Zen student of Mitra-roshi's. And Rinzenji is considered the founder's hall of Tenryuji. It has an immense, wonderful, deeply powerful rock garden and a large hondo, which is the ceremonial hall. And on one end of the hondo is the founder's room. Typically you go up the very tall steps that exist in Japan, and there at the top is his portrait statue, life-size portrait statue. And beneath all of that, he's buried, because in those days, this was 1300s, I think, no, 1200s, people were still buried in Japan. Since then, they've kind of run out of space, and so people are cremated. But back then, and when you go up and you sit before that figure, there's not very much space to do that. But if you're just in the presence of that figure, there is the most amazing, deep, profound, compassionate, let go energy in that space. And it infuses the entire tiny little Tenryuji temple. They have a large engawa, or you could call it a deck, but it's an extensive deck. It goes all along two sides of the temple, of that building. And I used to go and sit there every morning and every evening. Extremely powerful sitting. The energy of that space is amazing. And so if you ever get to Japan and have a chance to go there, you would have to have some advance notice. I would suggest that you do so. In my room, there is actually a photograph of that portrait statue. It was taken on the occasion of I don't remember which year, 650th, something like that, anniversary of the temple of Tenryuji. And Musou Soseki was famous for being I think it's a lot to call him a mediator. I mean, he functioned as a mediator, but he was able to bring opposing sides, particularly in war, together in harmony. He was quite famous for that, for being able, perhaps because he was so humble and so let go, and somehow important warring factions trusted him. He also was famous as a garden designer, and there are still extant gardens in Japan. I think the famous moss garden was designed by him, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. But he was by all any information about him, he was gentle and quiet. A true example of the fruits of Zen practice. And here is one of his poems. This place of wild land has no boundaries, north, south, east, or west. It's hard to see even the tree in the middle of it. Turning your head, you can look beyond each direction. For the first time, you know that your eyes have been deceiving you. And this is what comes as we go ever more deeply into our practice. We begin to see beyond. We begin to see more clearly. And again, trust is important. When he speaks of this wild land, it can seem frightening initially not to have something to hang on to feel supported by, to feel safe with. But in reality, there is none, and there doesn't need to be any. Because who we are, although in the relative sense, we're born and we die, in reality, who we really are, this face before our parents were born, which is still here now and is who we really are, never dies. And we are seeking to return to knowing intimately that face, awakening to it. That is what brings us to Zen practice, no matter what our overt reasons for it are. In another poem, he calls this clear valley. The water that can't be muddied with any stick is deeper than depth. The sky and the water are a single deepening blue. If you really want to find the source of the six patriarchs' fountain, don't look for it on the one bank or the other, or in the middle of the stream, because it has no boundaries. Who we are has no boundaries. And then one last poem, and this one you've heard before. This is a Rumi poem. It's called A Great Wagon. When I see your face, the stories start spinning. You appear, all studying wonders. I lose my place. Water turns pearly. Fire dies down and doesn't destroy. In your presence, I don't want what I thought I wanted. Those three little hanging lamps. Inside your face, the ancient manuscripts seem like rusty mirrors. You breathe, new shapes appear, and the music of a desire as widespread as spring begins to move like a great wagon. Drive slowly. Some of us walking alongside are lame. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right. There is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. I would love to kiss you. The price of kissing you is your life. Now my loving is running toward my life, shouting, what a bargain, let's buy it. Daylight, full of small dancing particles, and the one great turning. Our souls are dancing with you. Without fee, they dance. Can you see them when I whisper in your ear? They try to say what you are. They wonder about Solomon and all his wives. In the body of the world, they say, there's a soul, and you're that. But we have ways within each other that will never be said by anyone. Come to the orchard in spring. There's light and wine and sweethearts in the pomegranate flowers. If you do not come, these do not matter. If you do come, these do not matter. Out beyond the realm of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. This is our true nature. This is what we've yearned for lifetimes to open to once more. And this we can. So, in this sixth day, where you actually have more strength and more depth and more power than you can even think about, go deeper because you can. You can go much deeper. And it will be so worth it. I thank you for listening. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.